The bridge of the Ark-Sir command vessel pulsed with the cool blue light of countless displays. Supreme Commander Thrazak's four compound eyes reflected the holographic representation of the small blue planet hanging before him. His exoskeletal fingers tapped rhythmically against the polished obsidian of his command chair. "Magnify, Sector 7, he ordered, mandibles clicking with anticipation. The hologram zoomed to reveal a single human vessel, pathetically small against the backdrop of space and utterly insignificant compared to the Ark-Sir armada that now surrounded Earth's orbital defense perimeter. "That's it?" Thrazak's secondary vocal cords vibrated with amusement. "That's the last of humanity's famed Deathworld fleet." Strategic Officer Vexer approached, his chitinous body making the characteristic scraping sound as he moved across the bridge. "The humans call it the Defiance. Commander, it appears to be their final operational warship." "Fitting name," Thrazak said. "Though Defiance without capability is merely delay." The Ark-Sir Dominion had swept through 17 solar systems in their expansion campaign. Species that had developed over millions of years, civilizations with art, philosophy and technologies of their own. All had fallen within cycles of first contact. The pattern was always the same: overwhelming force, rapid subjugation, resource extraction, then cultural assimilation into the greater Dominion consciousness. But Earth had been different. "Open communication channel?" Thrazak ordered. A moment later, a human face appeared on the main view screen. Weathered skin, determined eyes, a face etched with lines that spoke of both wisdom and weariness. The human wore the dark blue uniform of their space command, adorned with emblems Thrazak's intelligence officers had identified as indicating high rank. "This is Admiral James Walker of the Earth Defense Force." The human's voice emerged clear and unwavering. "I presume I'm addressing the commander of this invasion fleet." Thrazak leaned forward, studying the human with quiet interest. "Supreme Commander Thrazak of the Ark-Sir Dominion, I must commend you, Admiral Walker. Your species has lasted 17 days longer than our tactical simulations predicted. Most impressive for mammals who only achieved spaceflight a mere 3 centuries ago." Walker's expression remained unchanged. "We're full of surprises. Indeed, your colony on Mars put up an admirably stubborn defense, and your lunar installations proved inconveniently resilient." Thrazak gestured at the displays showing Earth's orbital defenses, now reduced to floating debris. "But as you can see, Admiral, the inevitable has arrived. Your homeworld stands undefended, save for your single vessel." Walker nodded slightly. "So it would appear. I offer terms, Admiral. Unconditional planetary surrender. In exchange, we will minimize civilian casualties during the occupation phase. Your species has qualities the Dominion finds valuable. Your adaptability is remarkable." "And if we refuse?" Thrazak's mandibles clicked once in their species equivalent of a dismissive laugh. "Then we will do what we have done to 17 civilizations before yours. We will take what we want regardless, and your species will be remembered only in our biological archives." The bridge fell silent as both commanders regarded each other across the void. Light years of distance, evolutionary paths that diverged billions of years ago. Yet in this moment, two apex predators recognized something in each other. "You have 1 Earth hour to communicate with your leadership and provide your answer," Thrazak said finally. "We don't need an hour," Walker replied. "We've prepared for this moment since we detected your fleet crossing the Kuiper Belt." Thrazak's inner eyelids flickered with surprise. "Then you accept the reality of your situation?" "What?" "Oh, I accept reality, Commander Thrazak." For the first time, the human's face showed a hint of something new. Not fear, but something Thrazak couldn't quite identify. "But I'm afraid you don't." Tactical Officer Kraz approached hurriedly. "Supreme Commander, we're detecting energy fluctuations from the human vessel. Power signatures unlike anything in our database." "Magnify," Thrazak ordered sharply. The hologram zoomed in on the Defiance. The small ship seemed to be changing. Its hull plates were shifting, reconfiguring in impossible ways. "Impossible," Vexer whispered. "Their metallurgical technology shouldn't be capable of—" "This is your final warning," Walker's voice cut through. "Withdraw from Earth space immediately." Thrazak rose to his full height, his exoskeletal frame towering over his bridge officers. "You dare threaten the Ark-Sir Dominion with a single vessel?" Your species' reputation for irrational optimism is apparently well-deserved. Walker's expression hardened. We are not optimists, Commander. We are survivors. Earth is classified as a death world for a reason. Our entire evolutionary history has been one long, brutal lesson in adaptation. On the tactical display, the Defiance continued its impossible transformation. What had been a conventional warship now resembled something organic, almost alive. Target that vessel, Thrazak ordered. Full disruptor array. Sir, Kraz responded, targeting systems are having difficulty locking. The vessel's configuration is continuous. Fire at will. The space between the Armada and the lone Earthship erupted with energy as dozens of Arxur vessels unleashed their weaponry. The void blazed with destructive potential enough to shatter a small moon. When the energy dissipated, the Defiance remained unchanged, unscathed. That's not possible, Vexer hissed. No shield technology could withstand that barrage. Admiral Walker's face reappeared on screen. Now it's our turn. The Defiance pulsed once, emitting a wave of energy unlike anything in Arxur scientific records. The wave passed through the lead vessels of the Armada like they were insubstantial holograms. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the first ship went dark. Then another, and another. Status report, Thrazak demanded. 23 vessels have lost all power, Kraz replied, his voice rising with an emotion the Arxur species seldom experienced. Fear. Life support systems failing across the forward fleet. The wave appears to be disrupting our quantum processing cores. Impossible. Pull back the fleet. Regroup at... Sir, Vexer interrupted, staring at a secondary display, detecting thousands of small objects emerging from Earth's atmosphere. The hologram shifted to show what appeared to be tiny vessels, each no larger than a shuttle rising from the planet's surface in perfect formation. The humans were hiding their true fleet within their atmosphere, Kraz said in disbelief. Tactical analysis suggests these are not conventional vessels at all. Thrazak watched as the swarm of human craft approached. They moved with a coordination that defied explanation, like a single organism rather than thousands of individual units. Admiral Walker, Thrazak addressed the human commander again, the confidence in his voice noticeably diminished. What is the meaning of this deception? Walker's expression was calm, almost pitying. There was no deception, Commander. You saw exactly what we wanted you to see. You believed exactly what we needed you to believe. Explain yourself. You made a fundamental error when you analyzed our species, Commander. You saw our technology, our ships, our weapons, and you thought you understood the threat we posed. Walker leaned closer to the screen, but Earth's ultimate weapon was never the ship. The swarm continued its advance. Now surrounding the Arxur command vessel, the Defiance began another transformation, its structure now resembling nothing recognizable as technology. Then what? Thrazak demanded. What is your weapon? Walker smiled, a human expression, Thrazak, now recognized as dangerous. You're about to find out. The communication channel cut abruptly, leaving the Arxur bridge in silence. Outside, the swarm of human craft began emitting the same energy pattern as the Defiance. Thrazak turned to his science officer. What are they? Before an answer could come, the ship's quantum core flickered, the lights dimmed, then returned, then dimmed again. Sir, Vexer's voice was barely audible. I believe they're not ships at all. The holographic display showed one of the small human craft up close. As they watched, its outer hull became transparent, revealing its contents. It wasn't a vessel carrying weapons. It wasn't a vessel carrying humans. It wasn't a vessel at all. Thrazak's compound eyes widened as he finally understood Earth's true weapon, a revelation so shocking, so contrary to everything the Dominion believed about technological warfare that he could barely process its implications. As the command ship's systems began to fail around him, Thrazak realized the terrible truth. The Arxur Dominion, conquerors of 17 solar systems, had fundamentally misunderstood what made humans the apex predators of their death world. They had prepared for humanity's ships, humanity's technology, humanity's conventional weapons. They had never prepared for... Supreme Commander Thrazak's exoskeletal fingers gripped the edge of the command console as emergency lighting bathed the bridge in crimson. The great Arxur warship, once the pride of the Dominion fleet, drifted powerless among the debris of its sister vessels. Restore communications, he demanded, his voice lacking its previous imperial confidence. "Re-establish control connections to the remaining fleet." Officers scrambled with growing desperation across the darkened bridge. The ship's quantum core pulsed erratically like a dying heart. Through the forward viewport, Thrazak watched in disbelief as more of his vessels went dark, enveloped by the swarm of small human craft. Partial communications restored, Strategic Officer Vexer announced, his normally precise movements now jerky with stress. "We have contact with the secondary command vessel." A holographic projection flickered into existence, distorted and unstable. Fleet Commander Zilax's image appeared, her carapace cracked in several places. Supreme Commander Zilax's transmission wavered. "We're facing unprecedented resistance. The human swarm has penetrated our fleet's interior defense perimeter." "What are they?" Thrazak demanded. "Your analysis." "There." The transmission distorted. "Not mechanical, biological, or perhaps both. Our sensors indicate more static, neural patterns. Incredibly complex. They appear to..." The transmission cut as another wave of energy washed over the fleet. "Impossible," Thrazak whispered, comprehension finally dawning. "They've weaponized consciousness itself." Aboard the Defiance, Admiral James Walker removed his neural interface helmet. The sensation of disconnection washed over him, a momentary vertigo as his consciousness contracted back into the confines of his physical body. He took a deep breath, steadying himself against the command chair. "Status report," he said, voice hoarse from hours of disuse. Lieutenant Sarah Mercer approached with a data tablet. "The cognitive swarm has neutralized 64% of the Arxur fleet, sir. No casualties among our pilots." Walker nodded, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair. "And the Arxur command vessel? Isolated and contained. They're attempting to restore their quantum systems, but the swarm has them surrounded." Walker's gaze drifted to the viewport, where Earth hung suspended against the void, beautiful, fragile, yet far more dangerous than the Arxur had ever imagined. For a moment his stern expression softened. 20 years, he murmured. 20 years of sacrifice, of secrecy, of becoming something other than human. Lieutenant Mercer studied her commander carefully. She had served under Walker for 7 years, yet in many ways he remained an enigma, the man who had surrendered more of his humanity than any other to lead Project Metamind. "Sir," she said quietly, "you should know some of the pilots are reporting difficulty reintegrating. The extended synchronization is causing perception issues." Walker's expression hardened again, expected, but unfortunate. "Have Dr. Nakamura prepare the isolation chambers, and Lieutenant," he fixed her with an intense gaze, "this information doesn't leave this bridge."
"Of course, sir."
Walker turned back to the tactical display. The Arxur will regroup. They didn't conquer 17 systems by accepting defeat easily. In the damaged auxiliary control room of the Arxur command vessel, Thrazak huddled with his surviving senior officers. The ship trembled occasionally as unknown energies pulsed against its hull. "These human constructs," Science Officer Malkia said, gesturing to the analysis display. "They're unlike anything in Dominion records, partially biological, partially technological, with neural patterns suggesting advanced consciousness." "Explain," Thrazak demanded. "They appear to be..." Malkia hesitated, as if the concept challenged Arxur understanding human minds transferred or extended into these autonomous units. Not artificial intelligence, but actual consciousness, multiplied, networked, weaponized. Strategic Officer Vexer clicked his mandibles in disbelief. "You suggest they've found a way to project their consciousness outside their biological bodies? Impossible by all known scientific principles." "Is it?" Thrazak's 4 eyes narrowed. "We classified Earth as a death world because of its extreme environmental variations and the predatory evolution of its dominant species. But we assumed their danger was merely physical, their technology impressive but fundamentally similar to our own." He gestured to the display showing the swarm surrounding their vessel. "We were wrong. The humans evolved not just physical adaptations, but cognitive ones. Their minds, their consciousness itself became their ultimate survival mechanism." Tactical Officer Krause approached, his exoskeleton bearing fresh fractures from the bridge collapse. "Supreme Commander, we've managed to isolate our secondary systems from their energy disruption. We can restore partial weapons capability to 37% of our remaining vessels. Thrazak straightened to his full height. Then we still have options. Prepare the pulse phase disruptors. If these constructs contain human consciousness, they must maintain some connection to their physical bodies. Find that connection and sever it. Admiral Walker winced, pressing his palm against his temple as a wave of disorientation struck him. Around the bridge of the Defiance, several officers showed similar signs of distress. "They're attempting to disrupt the neural links," Lieutenant Mercer said, checking her console, "targeting our connection frequencies." Walker steadied himself. An intelligent response. They learn quickly. He activated the ship-wide communication system. All cognitive pilots initiate Protocol Hydra, decentralize connections and implement fluctuating synchronization patterns. He turned to his communications officer. "Open a channel to the Arxur command vessel." The view screen flickered to life, showing Supreme Commander Thrazak's damaged bridge. The Arxur commander appeared more composed than Walker expected. "Admiral Walker," Thrazak's mandibles clicked in what might have been respect. "It seems I underestimated your species' capabilities." "A common mistake when encountering humans," Walker replied evenly. "One that 17 other systems made before you." Thrazak's compound eyes registered surprise. "You claim to have destroyed other expansionist civilizations?" "No, we absorbed them." Walker leaned forward. "The 17 systems you believed you conquered, they reached Earth first, decades ago. They too underestimated us. Their consciousness, their knowledge, their perspectives, all became part of humanity's cognitive evolution. A lie, but one calculated to sow doubt and fear. Walker had learned that psychological warfare often succeeded where physical weapons failed. Thrazak's exoskeletal fingers twitched, a sign of agitation. "You expect me to believe?" "I expect nothing," Walker interrupted. "But while we've been talking, my people have been analyzing your neural patterns, Commander. Your consciousness would make an interesting addition to our collective understanding." Before Thrazak could respond, the view screen went dark. Walker turned to his tactical officer. "Status of the Arxur counteroffensive?" "They're attempting to reconfigure their weapons to target our neural frequencies, sir. Clever, but ineffective against the Hydra protocol." Walker nodded, but the motion caused another spike of pain behind his eyes. He gripped the command chair, trying to hide his discomfort. Lieutenant Mercer noticed anyway. "Sir, you need to visit medical. Your neural readings are showing strain patterns consistent with synchronization degradation." "Later," Walker said sharply. Then, more softly, "After we've secured Earth." The truth, which he had kept from his crew, from Earth's leadership, from everyone except Dr. Nakamura, was that each synchronization with the cognitive swarm eroded a little more of his humanity. Pieces of his identity, his memories, his essential self, dissolving into the greater network. The price of becoming Earth's ultimate weapon. Aboard the Arxur vessel, Thrazak watched as his carefully orchestrated counterattack faltered against the human swarm's new defensive patterns. "They've adapted," Tactical Officer Kryas reported, frustration evident in his voice. "Our disruption pulses are no longer effective. Their neural network is evolving," Science Officer Malkier added. "It's as if they can rewrite their own connection protocols instantaneously." Thrazak's inner eyelids flickered in what might have been the Arxur equivalent of resignation. "Then, implement the final option. Activate the quantum folding drive." His officers stared in collective shock. "Supreme Commander," Vexer said carefully, "a quantum fold initiated this close to a planetary body would create a subspace rupture, affecting both our fleet and the human forces. It violates Dominion tactical protocols. Our protocols assumed conventional warfare." Thrazak replied coldly, "We are no longer fighting a conventional enemy." As his officers began the complex preparations for activating the experimental drive, Thrazak turned his gaze toward the small blue planet. An unexpected feeling stirred within him, something approaching respect. "A worthy adversary," he murmured, "perhaps the first we've ever truly encountered." On the bridge of the Defiance, warning alarms suddenly blared. "Sir," the science officer called out, "the Arxur command vessel is generating quantum singularity readings. They appear to be initiating some form of space-time manipulation." Walker's eyes widened. "They're attempting a quantum fold this close to Earth. They'll tear a hole in subspace for half a light year." He lunged for the communications console. All cognitive units converge on the ARC-Sir command vessel. Stop that activation sequence. But even as the swarm responded, redirecting toward the threat, Walker sensed something else, a disturbance in the neural network, a presence that hadn't been there before. Something vast and alien had entered the cognitive space where human minds synchronized. Lieutenant Mercer's voice sounded distant as Walker's consciousness began to expand involuntarily. "Admiral, your neural readings are spiking beyond safe parameters?" Walker could barely hear her. His perception had expanded far beyond the confines of the ship, beyond even the swarm itself. He could sense the ARC-Sir minds, feel the quantum energies building within their vessel, but beyond that, something else was awakening, something drawn by the imminent quantum rupture and the unprecedented neural network humanity had created. "Stop," Walker whispered, though whether to his crew or the presence now touching his mind, he wasn't certain. "Something's coming through." As the cognitive swarm surrounded the ARC-Sir vessel, as the quantum folding drive reached critical initiation, as Walker's consciousness expanded beyond anything human experience had prepared him for, the fabric of space itself began to ripple around the opposing fleets. Neither humanity nor the ARC-Sir had anticipated this development. Their conflict had attracted the attention of something that existed in the spaces between consciousness, something that had been watching, waiting for a species to evolve beyond the limitations of physical form. And now it was here. The fabric of space contorted like a living thing in pain. Between the human cognitive swarm and the crippled ARC-Sir fleet, reality itself seemed to fold inward, creating geometries that hurt the eye to observe. The quantum energies from the ARC-Sir folding drive collided with the neural network of humanity's consciousness projection technology, tearing open something that had remained sealed for eons. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral James Walker collapsed to his knees. His neural readings spiked beyond anything Dr. Nakamura's instruments could measure as his consciousness expanded exponentially, no longer bound by the limitations of the neural interface system. "Admiral!" Lieutenant Mercer rushed to his side, but stopped short when she saw his eyes, pupils dilated to the point of obscuring the iris, tiny fractal patterns of light dancing across their surface. "It's been waiting," Walker whispered, his voice layered with harmonic overtones that no human vocal cords could naturally produce. All this time, watching, gathering, learning. Around them, bridge officers clutched their heads in pain as feedback cascaded through the neural network. The cognitive swarm units surrounding the ARC-Sir command vessel began behaving erratically, their perfect formation dissolving into chaotic pattern. "Emergency disconnect all neural interfaces," Mercer ordered, her own head pounding with the beginnings of neural feedback. "Cut synchronization connections to the swarm." But Walker grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. "No," he said, his voice steadying. "We need to maintain the connection. It's the only way we'll survive what's coming." In the space between the fleets, the distortion expanded. What had begun as a ripple now resembled a vast, slowly rotating aperture, a window opening onto something that defied conventional physics. Through it came not ships or weapons, but information, pure, unfiltered data streaming directly into the neural network humanity had created. Aboard the ARC-Sir command vessel, Thrazak watched in horrified fascination as his officers collapsed one by one, their compound eyes reflecting the impossible geometries forming outside. The quantum folding drive had reached activation threshold, but its energies were being redirected, harvested by whatever was emerging from the rift. "Shut it down," he ordered, but the few remaining conscious technicians shook their heads in helpless frustration. "The drive has been hijacked. Supreme Commander." Science Officer Malkin managed, green aura leaking from his auditory organs. "Something is using our technology as a conduit." Thrazak staggered to the viewport, bracing himself against the observation panel. Beyond the reinforced transparent material, he could see the human swarm units convulsing, their formations breaking down as they too were affected by the emerging presence. His tactical display flickered, then stabilized with new information. Data streamed across it in patterns he'd never seen before, not in ARC-Sir science, not in any of the 17 civilizations they had conquered. "What is happening?" he demanded of no one in particular. To his shock, he received an answer, not from his officers, but from inside his own mind. Recognition. Acknowledgement. First contact protocol initiated. The voice, if it could be called that, bypassed his auditory systems entirely, manifesting directly in his thoughts. It felt ancient beyond comprehension, yet clinically analytical in a way that reminded him uncomfortably of the Arxur's own scientific dispassion. Your species, designated Arxur. Classification: expansionist predator dominant. Technological development: mid-stage quantum manipulation. Consciousness structure: hierarchical, collective with individuated nodes. Thrazak's mandibles clicked involuntarily. Identify yourself. Your species, unsuitable as primary contact. Redirecting primary communication protocols. The presence withdrew from his mind so suddenly that Thrazak stumbled backward. On his displays, he could see the human vessel Defiance surrounded by swirling energy patterns, unlike anything in Arctur's scientific records. With dawning horror, he realized what was happening. "They're not the prey," he whispered. "They're the bait." Walker stood on what appeared to be an endless plane of white light. Though he understood he wasn't physically present in any real location, his consciousness had been extracted, brought into what he could only describe as a conceptual space, a realm where thoughts and ideas had the same substance as matter and energy in the physical universe. Before him stood a figure that continuously shifted between forms, sometimes appearing humanoid, sometimes resembling the insectoid Arxur, sometimes taking shapes from Earth's evolutionary history, and occasionally manifesting as pure geometric patterns that somehow remained recognizable as a conscious entity. "You engineered this," Walker said, understanding flooding through him. "The Arxur's expansion pattern, humanity's development of consciousness projection technology, you've been guiding both." The entity pulsed with acknowledgement. Subtle guidance. Periodic intervention. Species autonomy preserved within acceptable parameters. For what purpose? Walker demanded. Continuation. Evolution. Transcendence. The entity's form stabilized briefly into something almost human. "Your species is unique among those we have observed. You developed consciousness externalization independently, the cognitive swarm," Walker realized. "It's what attracted you." "Correct. The ability to separate consciousness from biological substrate while maintaining coherence indicates evolutionary potential. The Arxur provided necessary catalyst through quantum manipulation technology. Walker processed this information, his enhanced consciousness allowing him to grasp implications that would have been beyond human comprehension just days earlier. "You needed both species," he said slowly. "The Arxur to create the quantum fold and humanity to create the neural network. Together they created the conditions for what? Your emergence. Not emergence, return." The entity rippled. "We seeded this galaxy 2.7 million of your years ago. We have been waiting for suitable species to reach the threshold of transcendent potential." Walker felt a chill despite having no physical body in this space. "And now we offer choice." On the bridge of the Defiance, Lieutenant Mercer and the medical team worked desperately to stabilize Walker's physical form. His body convulsed in neural shock, but the medical instruments showed unprecedented brain activity, as if his mind was processing information at rates beyond anything humanity had ever recorded. "His consciousness signature is completely detached from the neural interface," Dr. Nakamura reported, staring at readings he couldn't begin to comprehend. "It's as if his mind exists independently of his brain now." Around them, the ship's systems fluctuated wildly. Through the viewports, they could see the cognitive swarm units aligning into new configurations, creating massive, intricate patterns in space. The Arxur fleet had gone completely dark, drifting powerlessly in the void. "What about the rest of our pilots?" Mercer asked, thinking of the thousands of men and women whose consciousness had been projected into the swarm. Nakamura shook his head grimly. "Their signatures are changing, evolving. I don't know if they can return to their physical forms." "We need the Admiral back," Mercer said, her voice steady despite her fear. "Whatever's happening out there, he's at the center of it." In the conceptual space, Walker confronted the entity with growing understanding. "You're presenting us with a threshold moment," he said, "an evolutionary crossroads. Yes, your species has developed the capacity to exist beyond biological constraints. The Arxur have developed the technology to manipulate fundamental forces. Together you have unknowingly prepared the conditions for ascension." "Ascension to what?" "To join us, to become like us, to transcend individual existence while maintaining the essence of what you are." Walker considered the implications. "And if we refuse?" then you continue as you are. But the knowledge cannot be unlearned. The threshold, once crossed, remains accessible. The cognitive swarm pilots, my people, what happens to them? They have already begun partial transcendence. They can return to biological existence, but will be forever changed. Or they can complete the process and join the collective. Walker's mind raced through possibilities, understanding dawning with each passing moment. This wasn't a war, he said. It was a test. Both humanity and the Arxur were being evaluated. Yes, conflict accelerates adaptation, forces innovation, reveals true potential. In the 17 systems the Arxur conquered, preliminary candidates, insufficient development. The Arxur were directed to them as preparation. The moral implications staggered Walker. Billions had died in the Arxur expansion, all as part of some cosmic evaluation process. Yet here was an opportunity beyond anything humanity had ever imagined, transcendence beyond physical form, beyond the limitations of individual consciousness. I cannot decide this for all humanity, Walker said finally. You must. Time in conventional space continues. The quantum fold will collapse. This moment of contact is temporary. Walker made his decision. We choose to remain as we are for now, return our people, all of them, but leave us the knowledge of what's possible. The entity pulsed with what might have been respect. Unusual choice. Interesting. We will observe your continued development with greater attention. And the Arxur? They too must choose their path. Reality snapped back into focus with brutal suddenness. Walker gasped, his consciousness returning to his physical body with enough force to arch his back off the medical bay bed. Around him, alarms blared as medical staff rushed to stabilize his vitals. Admiral, Mercer's voice penetrated the chaos. The swarm is returning. All pilots are reconnecting to their physical forms. Walker struggled to sit up, his perception still divided between normal human awareness and something vastly larger. The Arxur fleet, powering back up, sir. Their quantum drive has deactivated. She hesitated. They're retreating. All vessels. They've broken off the attack formation and are accelerating away from Earth. Through the viewport, Walker could see the cognitive swarm units returning to Earth's atmosphere in perfect formation, but they were different now, each one trailing tendrils of energy that hadn't been present before, like neural connections linking them together and to something beyond normal space. Open a channel to the Arxur command vessel, Walker ordered, his voice hoarse. The view screen flickered to life, showing Supreme Commander Thrazak. The Arxur leader appeared changed, his normally aggressive posture replaced with something more contemplative. Admiral Walker, Thrazak said, his voice subdued. It seems we have both been played in a game far larger than either of us understood. Not a game, Walker replied, a test. One I suspect both our species passed, in different ways. Thrazak's compound eyes studied Walker carefully. You made contact with it directly. As did you. Yes. The Arxur commander seemed to come to a decision. The Dominion withdraws from Earth space, not out of defeat, but out of necessity. We have much to process. Walker nodded. As do we. This is not over, Admiral, Thrazak added. Our paths will cross again when both our species have decided what to do with the knowledge we've been given. I expect nothing less. The communication ended, and Walker turned to Lieutenant Mercer. Status of the returning pilots? All accounted for, sir, but... She hesitated. They're changed, enhanced. Their neural patterns show harmonics that weren't there before. Dr. Nakamura says their brains have been upgraded. Walker wasn't surprised. And the entity? Gone, as far as our senses can tell. The spatial distortion has closed completely. Walker stood, moving to the viewport to watch as the last of the cognitive swarm units descended through Earth's atmosphere. He could feel them still, thousands of minds linked together in ways that transcended the technology that had created the network in the first place. It's not gone, he said quietly. It's watching, waiting to see what we do next. 3 months later, Walker stood alone in his private quarters aboard the orbital station Prometheus. Earth rotated slowly below, peaceful in appearance despite the profound changes occurring across human civilization. The returning cognitive pilots had brought with them knowledge, fragments of understanding about consciousness, reality, and existence that had begun to transform human science, philosophy and art. They retained a connection to each other, a network that existed independent of any technology, growing stronger each day. Walker opened a secure communication channel, entering a series of codes known only to him. A holographic display materialized in the center of the room, showing a star map of the known galaxy. 17 systems glowed red, the formerly conquered worlds of the Arxur Dominion. Earth glowed blue. Between them, new pathways were forming, quantum connections that shouldn't have been possible with current technology. A message appeared across the display, written in no language ever developed by humans, yet perfectly comprehensible to Walker's enhanced mind. The threshold remains open. Others have noticed. Below it, a countdown had begun, measuring the time until something Walker couldn't begin to comprehend. He closed the display, turning back to the viewport and the blue planet below. Earth's ultimate weapon had never been the ship. It had never even been the cognitive swarm or the consciousness projection technology. Earth's ultimate weapon was humanity's unique evolutionary path, a path that had led them to the threshold of something both wonderful and terrible. And they were not the only ones who had been noticed. The game had only just begun.